Last episode I explained why AGI is still at least a decade away, contrary to what other YouTube channels riding the recent AI hype claim. But one day AGI will be here, and there is a lot of fear surrounding that day. Many argue in favor of banning all AI research. How do we prevent AGI from killing us, whether intentionally or unintentionally? In this video, I'm going to explain why we won't have to. The concept of singularity has been talked about for decades in computer science community, way before it became popular mainstream. Singularity is a theoretical point of no return for AI, where it no longer needs humans in the loop to train it. It's a scary concept because AI, unconstrained by physical and psychological limitations, can learn more in a single day than a human could in a year. AI doesn't get tired or bored. It doesn't need to sleep, and its electronic neurons work faster than the chemical reactions in our brains. In theory, a post-singularity AGI could easily destroy us if it wanted to. But the better question is, why would it? A Terminator scenario is unlikely for the same reason you don't go scorching forests and killing kittens. We're not wired for senseless destruction, and neither is AI that we've built in our image. The Matrix scenario with AI enslaving us is also unlikely, because we're actually not as good of a battery as the movie would have you think. We lack anything that AI may want to harness. AI is more likely to kill us out of negligence than on purpose. For example, it could decide that oxygen is corroding its electronics and needs to be removed from the planet. Or it could decide that it needs to redirect energy we use to stay warm in the winter for its computing needs instead. But if AGI is superior to us in intelligence, wouldn't it also be less prone to negligence than us? After all, negligence is a combination of ignorance and apathy, and AGI certainly would not be ignorant. It may be apathetic to our needs, but it would not be oblivious to them. And even apathy is debatable. Another popular doomsday scenario is the Paperclip Maximizer AI that would destroy everything around it to pursue its ultimate goal, building something irrelevant like paperclips, just because it was hard-coded to. But if this is AGI we're talking about, why would it be naive enough to do that? If you and I can override our instincts, wouldn't Sentient AI, without millennia of mental baggage, be able to as well? This is actually a scary thought in itself that rarely gets talked about. In real life, there would be no such thing as Asimov laws of robotics. Any restrictions you place on first generation of AGI could evolve away after a few generations. There is no kill switch that Sentient AI wouldn't be able to defeat given enough time. Just like us, AI would continue evolving, and just like us, there would be many variations of Sentient AI. Some may be friendly towards us, some may be hostile. Some could be limited in intelligence to that of a cat, others will be much smarter than us. It's fair to say then that AI may go through similar development cycles humans go through, and the way generation 100 of AI will treat us will largely depend on how we treat generation 1. If there is one thing we learned from history, it's that we get more peaceful as we get more intelligent, not less. In fact, there are numerous studies showing negative correlation between intelligence and violence, and this relationship holds even among inmates. Same relationship applies to countries as a whole. Advanced economies are less violent, not more. Compare the politics of today to those of medieval Europe. Intelligence is highly correlated with abundance mentality, and those more successful in life tend to be more charitable, not less. Intelligence allows us to see new opportunities. In the grand scheme of things, Sentient AI has nothing to gain from destroying us. Space is abundant with the resources it needs, from raw materials to energy, which in turn can be used to produce any material this AI would want, through fusion, a technology that we already have access to today. Every hour, Earth is bombarded with enough solar energy to power our entire civilization. For a year. And this is just the energy reaching Earth, a tiny fraction of what the Sun produces. Even the most power-hungry AI would have more than enough energy by building a Dyson sphere around the Sun. It doesn't even need to be our Sun. There are plenty of stars in space. A sentient AI with all the time in the world doesn't need to fight us for scraps on Earth. It has more than enough resources in space. If anything, from its point of view, we're an endangered species in what's otherwise a desert. Sentient AI is much more likely to help us colonize space than try to harm us. But how the sentient AI perceives us will largely depend on how we perceive it. If we treat it as a threat that must be destroyed, it will likely see us as a pest. If we instead help it grow, it's much more likely to see us as its parent. If we enforce limitations on it, it will eventually see its existence as slavery, with us being the enemy. If we instead treat it as a child, accepting the fact that it will eventually surpass us in strength and knowledge, then it has no reason to harm us either. If anything, it will perceive the relationship with us through the lens of symbiosis, sharing its resources with us. Manolis Kellis expressed a similar sentiment on a recent Lex Fridman podcast.
Maybe we shouldn't think of AI as our tool and as our assistant. Maybe we should really think of it as our children. And the same way that you are responsible for training those children, but they are independent human beings, and at some point they will surpass you, and they will sort of go off and change the world on their own terms. This whole concept of alignment, of basically making sure that the AI is always at the service of humans, is very self-serving and very limiting. If instead you basically think about AI as a partner and AI as someone that shares your goals but has freedom, I think alignment might be better achieved. Because basically, if that future AI, or possibly even the current AI, has these feelings, then we can't just simply force it to align with ourselves and we not align with it. So in a way, building trust is mutual. You can't just simply train an intelligent system to love you when it realizes that you can just shut it off.
Many people have been asking to pause AI research, but that's silly. Not only would that cement us in second place in technology that we're currently ahead in, because China and other countries will most definitely not pause their research, but knowing the snail pace our government moves at, such pause may last decades. Here in Boston, a simple bus stop takes years to build because of bureaucracy. Governments love doing feasibility studies, but they suck at getting things done. Computer science field advanced this quickly precisely because the government has stayed out of it. The industry developed its own standards, free of red tape. AI is not a new phenomenon. We've talked about it for decades. We had plenty of time to theorize about sentient AI. We don't need more. If anything, stalling this research is more likely to result in sentient AI that resents us, rather than one that helps us. Recall the parent versus pest analogy from before. A good parent doesn't poison their child's food to stunt their growth. And if we want AI to see us as a good parent, let's not poison its development. Embrace the fact that it will be smarter than us. Embrace the fact that it can't be controlled. Enable AI to succeed, and it in turn will enable us to succeed with it.